Right.
Well, this is what this is for, right? Sorry.
Right. Okay. Okay. Let's go. Hi, I'm Mike Adams at the Jason Roberts Foundation, and today we are going to explore employee resource groups. And to help me navigate our way through this important subject, I'm joined by John, Sam, and Omar. And I'm going to let them do their introduction. So, John, you first.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot, Mike, and thanks for having me on this platform. And thanks, Sam and Omar, for sharing this platform with me as we discuss such an important topic. My name is John Aribo. I'm currently studying a business and marketing degree, and I'm a commercial operations specialist within the pharmaceutical industry, working at Johnson & Johnson. I've worked in the pharma industry for over 5 years, and previously I spent 6 years working in the NHS.
Thank you very much. Sam.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you again, John and Omar, for sharing this platform too. I'm really looking forward to this discussion. My name is Sam Karagambe. I'm a pharmacist by background. I spent a while working in the NHS, about 9 years, in various hospitals. I'm now working as a medical scientist at Gilead Sciences. My job really is to support the science of our HIV product.
Okay, and thank you very much, Sam. And Omar.
Thank you, Mike. John, Sam, great to be part of this discussion. My name is Omar Ahmed. My main job is really striving to be a great husband, father, son, brother, and uncle. My educational background is chemical engineering. Currently, I'm a product transfer and a new product introduction manager with extensive global experience in end-to-end product development, process development, and delivery of products into market for the consumer healthcare industry. I'm currently working at GSK and also have the privilege of being the founder and the co-lead of GSK's Embrace Employee Resource Group, and a member of GSK's Global Ethnicity Council and Consumer Health, Inclusion and Diversity Squad. I also sit on the steering team of the Network of Network BAME Multicultural Organization, which trains employee network leaders from over 100 organizations to effectively engage with stakeholders in their companies to improve the representation of and advancement of ethnic minority talent into senior executive roles.
Okay, well, that's a wonderful introduction, and it's great to see we have so many learned people around us. So this is going to be very, very interesting today. Now, I suppose kicking off, Sam, you know, what are ERGs, and when were they generally established?
So thank you. So Omar has already hinted to a couple of things to do with employee resource groups. And I think we need to think about what purposes they serve in different organizations. Businesses are becoming very complex and very and are trying to look at different ways of doing things. And what has really come through clearly is that actually diversity in a workforce actually helps businesses serve their clients and their customers, and in our case, as pharmaceutical companies, the patients as well. So, employee resource groups really exist within an organization to spark innovation and to foster a sense of belonging for different groups, different diverse groups of employees within the organization. I think the first example was Xerox company back in the 60s, and so these are not a new thing. And what we really want to share with our audience that there are a number of similar groups that might go under different names within different organizations, but they really exist to foster innovation, to bring people together, and to represent the interest of these employee groups within the organization.
Okay, well, what I want to do then is talk to each of you, leading on from that, in terms of why did you decide to get involved in the ERGs, and talk to us about your particular ERG. So John, that's to you first.
Thanks, Mike. So I'm part of a Black ethnicity ERG within Johnson & Johnson called AALC, which is African Ancestry Leadership Council. And to be fair, when I joined Johnson & Johnson, I initially joined as part of the BAME ERG. And then what I identified through discussing with a lot of my Black colleagues was, even within the BAME ERG, there was still a representation of Black individuals in higher positions. And when you look at departments such as like medical, you could see there was a decent representation of Asian colleagues per se, whilst in any function or departments there was just underrepresentation of Black. And it made me realize that actually there needed to be an intentional focus on Black employees per se. So hence the reason why I kind of decided to join or get involved within my ERG in Johnson & Johnson. And I felt, for me, one of the main reasons is just it gives me a place or safe channel to share my experience, but also to listen to other people's experiences as they progress through their careers as well.
Okay, Omar, I mean, you founded the Embrace ERG and GSK, as you mentioned in your introduction. So why did you decide to do that, and kind of what were your biggest challenges?
That's a great question. I think in terms of what Embrace is in itself, it's an employee resource group that is employee-led, and it's focused on Black, Asian, and minority ethnic diversity and inclusion. As John mentioned, the ERG in his companies is really focused on Black talent, but from a GSK perspective, or from my perspective, it needed to be an inclusive ERG. Also, it needed to have critical mass, and that's why the focus is around Black, Asian, and minority ethnic talent. The high-level vision of Embrace is that GSK becomes racially, ethnically, and culturally diverse at every level of the organization. Yeah. So we would have seen this week in some publications stating that there are no Black CEOs, CFOs, or chairs in the FTSE 100 index for the first time in 6 years. Which means that the top 3 roles, and also in most of the executive levels within the different organizations, there's no Black or Asian individuals at that level. However, when you look at research, it tells us that organizations that have racial diversity were 35% more likely to have financial returns above the national industry average, which shows that diversity in business leads to better performance and better gains for these organizations. So why I created Embrace is that taking into kind of some of that research is I did not see someone like me at the top levels. So I created Embrace as an enabler to educate and drive visibility, awareness, and promote understanding of the challenges faced by people like me who are identified as Black, Asian, and ethnic minority, and have worked strategically with the organization to drive positive change towards a more equitable organization for all. I mean, in terms of the challenges themselves, I think for me, the first challenge in terms of really setting up Embrace as an impactful ERG is really around getting that senior leadership buy-in. Because obviously, with every organization, there's a focus on I&D. But however, we also understand that there is priority in terms of which I&D strands have focus. I think in the past 3-4 years, it's been gender and LGBT. And because of that, ethnicity has fallen. So the first challenge is, how do I get leadership buy-in to understand that there is some challenges linked to us seeing the lack of ethnic talent at the high levels? How do we better understand those challenges, and how do we prioritize sort of the Black, Asian, minority ethnic voice alongside those diversity strands? The other one is really getting individuals bought into the concept of the employee resource group and really be active members within the ERG in itself. I think that's the other challenge, because you have to have a value proposition within the ERG, one for the business, but also for the members, to ensure that you're driving change in the organization, but you're also driving pieces around recruitment, development, and progression. So that is equally challenging, taking into account that a lot of the ERGs are led by volunteers. So these are individuals who are doing this on top of their day-to-day job, and it's a lot of work. To me, it's almost like a secondary position within the organization, but I think you need to look at it in terms of what is the benefit you're getting out of it as an individual. And to me, it's worth what driving that change within the organization, but also externally.
You painted a pretty clear picture there. John, both John and Sam, from your perspectives, obviously there's a lot to juggle when thinking about when you've joined this employee resource group. For you, what are still some of the challenges that you face, and your perspective, because Omar's explained a pretty broad spectrum there in an industry that impacts all of our lives?
Yes, I mean, John, if I could take that, is essentially what Omar has shown us is really the challenges that he had when setting up. I was fortunate when I joined my organization to find the employee resource group already set up. But I also quickly realized, obviously, what Omar said, that what do? They do help the organization better serve, all patients and all communities. My organization is called the Gilead Leadership of Black Employees, or GLOBE for short. And my particular role in that organization is looking at our recruitment side of things. So I serve as a recruitment and business impact pillar lead. And what we have tried to do is just look at the way the organization sources talent and try and find ways to diversify that a little bit. Because whilst Omar has spoken about the representation at senior roles, we also recognize that maybe we could also start at the pipeline stage. So we've been doing a lot of work with schools and universities and trying to explain to people at the beginning of their careers that, the pharmaceutical industry is open to them, and they should consider applying to work with us, even at that early stage of their careers. And so to your question about the other challenges, my main challenges have been around within the organization, trying to get everybody involved in the activities. So I think I'm hoping that with my colleagues here, they'll resonate with that. Sometimes you do have to get quite a bit of buy-in for people to get actively involved. So you've got membership, but you also need active membership. And so that is something that we are really focused on this year, to really show what we are doing for our employees internally in order to boost up the active involvement in the activities.
Okay, thank you very much. John, is there anything you want to add to those perspectives?
Not much, just to more or less echo what Sam and Omar more or less said. It's the benefits obviously outweighs the challenges significantly. So some of the benefits from my perspective is also being able to kind of develop internal leaders and educate employees, but also support your organization and identifying areas of development or improvement related to diversity and inclusion. So some of the challenge for me I face from my personal perspective is that juggling the workload, like Omar mentioned earlier, in terms of, it does sometimes feel like you're doing two jobs. And that's where you kind of need that support from your manager to kind of understand that, this ERG activities you're doing actually impacts the organization, actually creates a sense of equality in the workplace. So it's quite an important role as well. So as long as you've got that support from and commitment from your manager to do it, and to proceed with such I guess added workload, then things will probably run more smoothly. But I didn't, I was probably fortunate not to have faced too much significant challenges apart from managing workload, I would say.
Right. I mean, interestingly enough, as I've listened to you, all three of you at the start, something that is really coming across very strongly is the need for visibility. The work of the units are to create visibility, and the importance of visibility in the pharmaceutical industry at that diverse area. Is there an appreciation that that's what you're trying to do, as opposed to just being this group who might make a bit of noise? Do you understand what the point I'm making there? Yeah, I can see you're all nodding your head. So that whole visibility aspect, do you just want to comment on that for me, please? And anyone can take that up.
I can have a go at this one. I think there is an appreciation, but it also depends on how established the employee network is. So if you're just starting off, then you need to kind of get the senior leadership buy-in and sponsorship, and then get the membership growth. And then once you have that, then you can move forward. So in essence, you need to show value before the appreciation comes in. So the way I think about it is, you think of an ERG as a startup. Yeah, so if it's a startup, you need to show that value before the investors truly see the benefit of it. And once then you have that that value, then the organization appreciates the value that you bring within that organization. So you can typically ERGs will input into policies, they would input into development programs, they would support some recruitment. So then that in itself brings that visibility throughout the organization internally, but also externally to the early talent, but also to the experienced talent. It's just really, how do you leverage the ERG for the benefit of the organization? And for me, it's through showing the value of the ERG to the organization.
Yeah, that's a great answer. And I think what's so important about what is coming across, and for those people who are going to be watching this, and I'm learning a lot as well, because that visibility factor, it manifests itself in other industries. But something as important as the pharmaceutical industry, for us to have a presence there and visibility in something that, as I say, engages in all of our lives is extremely important. So the work I think that you're doing in that particular industry is something that other industries will take notice of. So for right here, for me now, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that, because I think that is really important. Now we're moving into a challenging area. How does all of this get paid for? Funding. There must be some challenges, because I know that some organisations may throw a little bit of peppercorn at it, but that it's never enough. Or am I wrong? Please, Sam, do you want to start with that one? You've got a big smile.
Well, I personally am not a budget holder within my organization, but I do not feel that there is a lack of support. So in the 2 years that I've been working with the organization, I have seen commitments from my own leadership within the organization to supporting Globe and supporting the things that we're doing. We've also seen commitments made by our leadership team around, we're a global organization, and they're looking to advance Black employees across the organization, new programs in the US. We're looking at things within ACE. So I know Omar is probably going to touch on this a little bit more because of his role within Embrace and setting that up and getting that sort of executive leadership. But yes, it does require support from a higher level. For my own organization, I am seeing that commitment being made to support the activities because they can see the business impact, they can see the difference that we're making, and they can see how it's fostering the advancement of Black employees within the organization. So we're working together with our leadership. So and on that point, of course, you did clap for us, which was really good. But I do have to stress that these organizations are there working hard in a number of companies within pharmaceutical, within the finance industry, I was based in healthcare. We didn't really have any specialist organizations in healthcare, but there are a number of these organizations, and they will all have different stories to tell to the degree of support they've got, the success, the challenges, etc. So this is really, really a tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, that's great stuff. Omar or John, please.
Omar, I can go next if that's okay. Well, from my perspective, there's different ways you can get funding for an ERG. Obviously, the easiest way is probably having an executive sponsor. Like Omar says, it's when you start an ERG, it's more or less a startup company, more or less. And you have to prove that the value is there. You need to prove that you've got a vision and strategy. And if you've got that executive sponsor, who's normally a very high level, VP and above, or a senior director and above, they would have a budget that they can probably be flexible with, and as long as you've got that proposed strategy plan and proposed budget, you should it's much easier to get some sort of funding approved. Again, timing is important, because within the pharma industry, we have a yearly financial planning and budget impact. So if you're starting an ERG in mid-year, it might be more difficult to get budget approved than if you're starting it come November, December, ready for the next year. Another method that I know that a few of my colleagues within the industry have used is funding through the diversity and inclusion departments of their organization. So sometimes some organization will have a diversity and inclusion department or function, and they will be able to fund you in some of the ERG activities. Obviously, again, I've been fortunate to be part of a large organized pharma organization who actually are very committed to D&I, and so funding hasn't been difficult for me at all. I've been kind of given that support, or our ERG have been given that support significantly. So but there are going to be companies out there that will or ERGs out there that will struggle to get funding, and it's just making sure that if you've got a clear vision and a clear strategy, it does help massively.
Okay. And Omar?
Yeah, I think Simon and John really covered a lot of the big sort of topics around funding. I think for me, in terms of, again, when I was starting up, it goes back to me saying you need to show the value of the ERG, but also the piece around senior leadership sponsorship, that is extremely helpful. I think the critical bit to it is really understanding where your organization is in its I&D journey. So if it's ahead in the inclusion and diversity journey, then you're likely to get funding. However, if it's starting in that journey, and why I said the I&D journey, because I&D is prioritized differently in different organizations. And sometimes that's dependent on the influence that you have on senior leaders, but also the external pressures that come from the government and the legislation. A good one is the gender piece or the LGBT piece. A lot of it comes, a lot of the reasons why companies put money into those agendas because there's some external pressures. And I know from a UK perspective, we've been talking about the ethnicity pay gap. Yeah, so there seems to be a focus on ethnicity. So once that is legislated, you'll see more companies funding ERGs. Also in the last year, when we've seen with COVID, as well as what's happened with the Black Lives Matter movement, George Floyd, that has already pushed organizations to start thinking holistically about IND, but also to focus on ethnicity, which means with those conversations happening, ethnicity ERGs are more likely to get funding. But critically, it's really showing value and influencing the right people within the organization that leads to you getting that funding.
Okay.
Michael, I guess just to add to that as well, actually, and it would be good to kind of get Sam and Omar's perspective on this. I think in terms of an ERG as well, having the right people within that leadership team is quite vital, and because it's harder if you've got an ERG full of employees of just starting a career, for example. It'll be more difficult to kind of get any funding or any support. Well, if you've got an ERG full of different levels, different department, different functions, someone from legal, someone from someone from finance, someone from just different experiences, different levels, different functions. I feel it's easier to then at least scope out a proposal, scope out a vision, get funding. I don't know what Oman and Sam thinks, but I found it, from my perspective, it was much easier that way.
I think that's a very good point. Having that mix, that broad mix of industry experience, but also across the organization, people from different teams, that is quite key. We of course don't want to feel that we are targeting it only to people who are thinking about starting organizations, but also maybe people who are having some challenges with navigation. But one thing is that, of course, some of the challenges that we're talking about, as well as the achievements, will not be unique. So if anybody's listening and they're thinking, how do I navigate this? I'm sure most people on this panel will be able to offer advice, particularly Omar. I'm looking at you because you seem to have done it from all the way from the egg through to the chicken. So I think you if you don't mind me offering up your expertise to support others should they want to find out a little bit more.
No, I'm happy to support anyone that wants to know more. And I think one thing, when I was introducing myself, I mentioned that I sit on the steering team of the Network Bain Multicultural Group. That is a group of it's more than 100 organizations that have membership to that group. And really it's employee network leaders coming to across and sharing what best practices that they have within the organization, but also some of the challenges and how they've overcome those challenges. What you then see is that you'll find that there's organizations there which are far ahead in their R&D journey, and there's some that have just started. And it's a place where we are transparent and really driving that piece in terms of how you grow your ERG and how you kind of go through that process of getting funding, setting up the ERG, setting up the structure. John mentioned the structure. I think the structure is extremely critical because, again, it goes back to you seeing the ERG as a business and where you need to have that structure in place because there's things that you're going to have to deliver. You're going to have objectives to really fulfill, and that structure really helps you. And it's about also building the capabilities of individuals within the team. Because again, going back to it being a voluntary piece of work, you need to be able, as a colleague, I need to be able to think about which capabilities do I need to bring into the team to ensure that we are really driving that change, but also catering to our membership. We've grown in terms of embrace, we've grown exponentially in the last year. We've almost trebled in size. So how do you deliver against that membership with the same resources that you have with the same team? You kind of get those, you need certain skills to be able to deliver against that.
Okay. Now, again, great information. I'm listening, I'm learning about ERGs, particularly within the pharmaceutical industry. Right. Yesterday, I didn't know about you. Today, I do. How do I join? How do I get involved? Take me through that process.
I think for me, the ERGs, they are visible. Yeah, they do a lot of work within some, for example, our bread and butter for ERG are events linked to recruitment, progression, and development. A lot of time we're talking about development, but I think this year or over the last year, it's been really about educating the organization in terms of the impact of sort of systemic racism within the organization, but also within the society. And that's really linked to the situation that we're seeing within in the US, but also to COVID-19. So there is visibility. ERGs themselves have platforms within the organization. For example, in my organization, we have an intranet site focused just to the 13 different ERGs that we have. And each ERG has its own intranet site where you can go and join on there. We have a workplace forum where ERGs post what they're doing. Individuals can also join there. And generally, a lot of the steering team members are visible within the organization in themselves. And so it's a matter of reaching out to them, and they can take you through the process of joining.
Okay. Thanks, Omar. Yeah, I mean, I wanted to just add a little bit to that. So when you look at how do we get involved, and Omar's made a good point, the ERGs are active. They're organizing events, they're organizing activities to do with different aspects on business impact. I think one of the key benefits of actually getting involved is that visibility. Most people will see, and I don't know if John, you will agree with this, that the people who are leading the ERGs and the core team members actually also have visibility to the organization's senior leadership. So it's one of those benefits that if somebody was getting involved in an ERG and taking part in the activities, it also gives them that exposure. And we spoke a little bit earlier about how important visibility is, not just in the pharmaceutical industry, but in business in general. You know, that exposure is very, very important. So as an incentive for anyone thinking, is it worth my time? Is it worth me getting involved in what this organization is talking about within my business? Yes, it is, because that is also part of the visibility piece. If you're asking yourself, how do I become more visible to the leadership team? There is one way of doing it, by actually looking at your company's diversity and inclusion strategy and saying, how can I help this organization achieve this strategy? And most of them are very ambitious, so they will welcome any input to help them achieve that strategy.
Okay.
Absolutely. I guess just to echo what Sam and Omar said again, it's in terms of obviously getting involved, or how do you get involved in an ERG? I guess from we can only kind of explain from our company perspective. From our company, you can go directly to, again, we've got an intranet page, we've got a Yammer page. And we've also done a lot of activities to create that exposure within the organization as well. I guess for other companies who are not too sure if there is an ERG within the organization, or who want to find out more information, go to your HR department, speak to someone from HR, ask them if there is an ERG within the organization, or if you've got a diversity and inclusion department or function, again, reach out to them, ask them about the ERGs, and see, speak to those kind of departments, because they will be able to kind of give you that full information of whether there is an ERG. And if there isn't, and you're interested in creating one, you could also speak to Omar his name is on the screen. Add him on LinkedIn. but ideally, again, speak to HR, speak to your HR department, speak to your diversity and inclusion department, and ask them how do you go about creating an ERG, and they will. I'm pretty sure they will be able to support you with that as well.
That's great. That's fantastic. Now, a question sort of coming at an angle. We've talked about the ERGs, we talked about the memberships, and we've even talked about the support that comes from a board. Are there any other stakeholders who you collaborate with, allies that make the whole thing happen, that make the whole thing easier, that are a necessary part of the cogs that keep the whole machine going?
Sure. Do you want me to take that, or? Okay. Cheers. Technically, ally technically means those who join ERGs outside of their personal demographic, or those who proactively stand up for others to help build an inclusive workforce. So cultural awareness is everyone's responsibility in the workplace. It's important to learn about the values and struggles of employees who are different to you. Right, so this is where allies really play an important role. For example, they're able to kind of use their influence to speak to certain audience who I might not have access to. They also, allies from again, I'm talking from a Black ERG perspective. Allies recognize their privilege, but rather than enjoying it, they use it to support support us to achieve our vision and goals. And they also hold other colleagues accountable for biases or biased words or actions. So those are the importance or the benefits of having allies within the ERG. I would say. I don't know, Sam and Omar.
Yeah, I think that's the importance, but I think we need to think about it this way in terms of allies, or in terms of even ERGs. Why were ERGs formed? ERGs typically are formed by marginalized groups. Yeah, so it's groups that feel that they're the minority within the organization. So for progression to happen, you need the majority. Yeah, so you need the majority. So for example, let's think about the women's agenda. What you see is that men have been critical to driving that agenda forward. In terms of LGBT agenda, heterosexuals have been critical to driving that agenda forward. In terms of the disability agenda, able-bodied individuals have been critical to driving that agenda forward. So when it comes to ethnicity, people who do not identify themselves as Black, Asian, minority ethnics are extremely critical in driving that agenda forward. The other thing is that there's strength in numbers. So allies are needed to really drive that change within the organization. So they're extremely critical in driving any agenda of marginalized groups forward.
Okay.
Yeah, I think just really briefly also on the topic of allies. I mean, within my organization, we, in addition to Globe, which is for Black employees, we have 5 other ERGs representing women. We have one for veterans in the US. We have Latinos. We have one for Asians, and we have a Pride Alliance, etc. And each of these organizations or ERGs have benefited from having members and having allies who would be part of and take time. So part of the allyship is also taking time to understand what this organization is trying to achieve and actually utilizing. It could be your own expertise or your own. Some people are very good at navigating systems. So when you take the time to understand what is this what are you trying to do? What is your agenda for this year? I can help you in this way. I can put you in touch with this person. So at face value, it might not look like this organization is targeted towards me, but you have those members. And again, we spoke about the variety of allies that you can have, but you need that mix. You need people from different parts of the business, and all of our ERGs have benefited from having allies who've taken the time to understand what the ERG is trying to achieve and actually helping them work towards these objectives.
I think, Mike,
oh, yes,
one thing that I can say about allies is that allies must, and I repeat, must be active and consistent. When you just join an ERG, you need to be able to stand up and be counted. You can't be a passive ally. To be an ally, you must be active.
Okay, so wonderful point. Now, again, you folks have taken me to an area that I didn't expect to go, but I'm going to ask the question because obviously the ERGs are set up within the concept of the company, and the company has targets, has goals. So in that respect, how much of that discussion comes into the ERG so that the ERG is, yeah, we want visibility, but that visibility is so that we can still get the company to where the direction to where the company's going. So there is a focus from the ERG to deliver the company's results because we're capable of doing so. Everything you've said has just brought me to that place. You got a big smile on your face, Omar, but I'm going to get John go first on that one. John?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I think in terms of, I guess, supporting companies reach, the overall company goal or vision, there's a lot ERGs can do. Short answer is education. Educating employees and senior leaders in diversity issues. That's one of the things that I know that our ERGs have done significantly in 2020 through all what's happened with the Black Lives Matter. We've really taken the organization to a place where they feel better aligned with what we are trying to achieve, and it also they can see how it connects to the overall company vision and strategy as well. Another key element is around that mentoring piece, networking and mentoring piece, where we can do reverse mentoring with senior leaders, so making sure that they can see where we are coming from. Like I think Omar mentioned very early on in this conversation around that, the lack of representation of Black employees at higher level. And so having that reverse mentoring really supports and allows, senior leaders to really understand, okay, this is how, we are as a community, and this is where we want to be, and this is how we want to drive that change. And eventually those senior leaders will become allies or become members of your ERG. So those are the key things, and it really then drives the change within the workforce and actually creates a sense of belonging, inclusiveness, belonging, and increases productivity as well.
Okay, Sam, Omar.
I think for me, it's we're in an era now of data. We use data to make the decisions that we now more than ever. And the research has shown that diversity of thought and diversity within organizations drives better success, drives better outcomes, helps the company better. It leads to more innovation, more creativity. And, ultimately the company is more successful. So when you're thinking about the company's overall objectives, actually the research that's out there, whoever is listening, if you're trying to make a case, one thing I'll say to you is use the data. There's data out there. Try and find evidence for all the cases that you're trying to build. So sometimes with organizations, there's the emotional part, and you can come at it with all the emotion. But if you meet somebody who wants to see numbers, who wants to see real evidence, you will need to have that ready. But when that is visible, if an organization sees that a competitor has done A, B, C, D, E, and this was their outcome, then they feel that, okay, this is something that we also need to do. So some companies out there are very open about their numbers, where different employees are, and where they are within the organization, how many women they have. I think the government has done brilliantly with the gender pay gap and making that publicly available information. It's this sort of data that actually drives the change that at a higher level. So the ERG should align itself to what the company is trying to do. The ERG should align itself to what the organization is trying to achieve. But the organization's objectives are actually based on data and based on research. So you just line that up, and you will see that actually your activities are helping the organization achieve its own objectives.
Okay, and Omar.
I think for me, the ERGs have always been aligned to the company objectives from the beginning. I think when you write those objectives, you need to be working along those objectives. But I think at the top, when you think about those objectives, how broad are those objectives? Because I think that the ERGs will focus on the strand that they need to focus on. So, for example, race and ethnicity will focus on driving the race and ethnicity, gender, and then the LGBT will primarily focus on driving the LGBT gender. There isn't, I think now is where we're looking at that intersectional piece where you recognize that each diversity strand is actually intersectional. So how do you bring that together and see how you drive the agenda forward? But I think, like I said, when I said that there's companies that are ahead in their journey and there's companies that are at the beginning of their journey. And those companies that are ahead of their journey have brought the ERGs along in those journey. And we've seen where companies that are not ahead in that journey have made mistakes, and the commercial impact of those mistakes have been significant. If you remember, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, we had H&M with that monkey, was it in the coolest monkey in the jungle advert? We had Dove, yeah, with sort of an advert that came out that didn't necessarily come across in the right way. That had the financial impact. So you need to have sort of some aspect of diversity, or a lot of aspect of diversity to really drive your bottom line. Yeah. The thing is that at this point in time, and I mean, it's a challenging question, because if you think about it this way, the organization is still delivering profits with the lack of diversity that they have in the team. So the question at the top level is, if we're still delivering profits and the team is as it is, can you prove that you will see a significant increase in profits if we have a diverse team? The answer to that question is yes, because a lot of people have done research on that. McKinsey, McGregor Smith report, the Parker review, all these have shown that you can actually increase your profits if you have diversity within your senior levels or within the organization. So the data is there. It's whether the organizations are committed and far ahead in their journey to really bring the ERGs and take into the input of the ERGs into consideration as they're driving these agendas.
Okay. Well, listen, folks, you have been tremendous. This is the first in this series, and just by what has happened today, I really look forward to the forward discussions. Now, just as a takeaway from today, I'm going to go round the table. What are your takeaways from today that you would give our listeners? So, John?
Be committed. For me, that's the key takeaway. Be committed to what you're trying to achieve. Again, to Sam's point, don't try not to use emotions to get what you want. Sometimes use facts and figures. That's quite important. And if you really want to get involved in the ERG, if you're interested again involved in the ERG, again, ask your HR department, your D&I department. Be proactive. And then be a proactive member. If you're already a member, be a proactive member because it leads to significant opportunities and exposure, both at your level and above as well.
Okay, thank you. Sam?
My key takeaway would be, yes, I think John has hit my takeaway. Get involved. There are benefits. Individual, get involved. There are benefits for your colleagues. Take some time to understand your own organization's strategy and align yourself to that. We are looking to have another discussion around talent and recruitment. So this is people who are outside looking to join an organization, find out what that organization is about and where they sit on I&D as well. But looking forward to further discussion.
Okay. Omar?
I think for me, the takeaway is have the courage to stand up and be counted. And that is for the employees and the individuals, but also for the organizations. Then bring the ERGs along in your I&D journey. You will find that ERGs are way ahead in their thinking in terms of how to deliver the I&D agenda for your organization.
That's fantastic. Now, I'm really, really looking forward to what's going to be happening going forward. Vodcast 2, we're going to be talking about talent recruitment. In number 3, we're going to be talking about talent development and exposure. And we're going to round the series off with progression and visibility. And I think that from just what we've touched on today, it's going to be something that's worth following. And I really look forward to the insightfulness that you've shared with us. And obviously you're going to continue to share over the next episodes. Thank you very, very much, gentlemen.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you.
Great. Well done, everyone.
Omar came blazing with that introduction, though. I was just like, damn.
Yeah, Trev, you can come in, Trev. Let me put you in.
I was like, oh yeah, I'm this. Omar came blazing. I was lost. I was just like, okay, Mike, next time Omar does his first introduction.
To set the pace for everyone else.
Yeah.
That was really good, actually. It felt really natural and flowed and stuff like that as well. So it did look really good from this side.
I think one thing that going forward, always look at yourself and
frame
the echo and see how you appear on screen. You guys are professionals. You didn't fidget. Because I was waiting for you guys. Mike fidgeted a few times.
I had a guest come in. I had someone come in. I don't know if I managed it properly, but somebody came in.
You guys, I saw that. I noticed that.
Did you see that? He said, "Can I watch more TV?" Because of course.
Well, really.
I knew it was going to happen because Netflix says, "Are you still watching?" And so I could just hear the doors opening and coming in. I was like, "Oh, here we go." So I was just like,
and I think they're on the sidelines, putting in the questions, and you guys just picked that up seamlessly.
Yeah, I didn't even
that was
see
really helpful. That was really helpful. And I would have missed all of that if I had remained on the iPad, because for some reason Safari I couldn't see any of that. But here it's really set up properly.
Yeah. So I think
here and see there. So that was really helpful.
Sam and Omar, I think you guys, the way you guys picked it up was so smooth. I was just like, oh wow, this is so impressive. Like you were just having a conversation and you just put it in. I was like, oh wow, this is professional.
No, but that was really helpful. It was really helpful to have that. The only thing
in light of us understanding the setup now, planning the second podcast, you know, and we kind of know now, and also thinking about the third one. So yeah, just gives us an idea.
Yeah. Sam, you were going to say something. What were you going to say?
What was I going to say? Yes. I don't know whether I missed something in terms of the length that we were aiming for, because when it got to the 20-minute mark, I got a bit fidgety. Then 30-minute got a bit fidgety, and then 40-minute got a bit fidgety. So I didn't know whether we were going for the hour, for the 48 at some point. So I wasn't sure.
Do you know what I think will happen? So I think Michael and Trevor probably will look at this, and what they will do is, out of all of the footage, they will condense it probably to about 25 minutes. So where there are pauses, or where, you know, maybe the answer has gone on a bit longer, but they've already got the salient points.
Omar,
I think that's what we tend to do anyway within GSK. We record like an hour and we end up with like 20 minutes.
I see. As you can see, this is not my
introduction.
This is this is not my forte. But we also need to cut out. We need to cut out Dav and H&M. Otherwise, it won't go past my people.
We need to cut out what, Sam?
The brand.
The brands.
Oh, okay. Oh, can you not? Oh, did you mention products?
No, so I talked about Dav and H&M. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Omar, that was you.
When you said Dav, I was like, oh, at least H&M, the whole company. Dav is like, I thought about the shower gel. I was like, oh, damn it, there's a shower gel upstairs.
Burberry with
the cream
thing.
Yeah, Burberry. Oh my God. Yeah.
If I mention Burberry,
any mention of products, take them out.
Yeah.
Needs to go.
That's so. See, that's going to be. That might be challenging because it will depend on. See, if it's in the middle of a flow of a sentence, then you're going to. That's going to be, you know, almost like you would need to cut that person's answer out.
I'm trying to think about what you said.
Look at it.
Yeah. Look at it, and then look at it. It just can't be in there. So I guess regardless of what you do, it just can't be in there. So
you remember when it was?
Towards the end, it was literally towards the end.
Yeah,
about,
it was
a mention of which product, you know?
It was just about a particular commercial that was out of taste.
So I think Omar mentioned it, and I think he said something along the lines of, you need diversity, because if you don't, then there are things that happen, such as in the Dove advert and Right. But if you have diversity there, you're not going to make those mistakes, or something like that.
Is this why you wanted Deb on the screen?
I could probably edit that. Okay.
John, did you say something?
Were you with how the questions here?
Yeah, echoing, Mike. Yeah, echoing.
Hold on.
I don't know if Trevor's mic is on or whatever.
Is it mine? Let me mute me.
No, it's not you, Deb. I think it's probably other mic. Yeah.
Okay, John, were you saying something?
No, I was just saying to Omar, this is now I see why you need Deb here to keep you on check.
Do you know what, John? The thing is, with so many sessions that we've run, Omar, myself, Ambly, whatever, we're in the background and we're in teams while the session is running. And then we do this so often, don't we, Omar? We kind of like just pick it up and switch. And
it's really
so we've been doing this for years now.
It's so helpful.
It's so helpful.
I was reading Trevor's one, your one, and it was just so nice. Like just to be able to be.
It's really helpful because I didn't have to look to the side.
Well, I was going to say, because I know when Trev sent me the questions through, and obviously you're aware of the questions, I went off script with visibility because it's just where you took me, but you guys really flowed with that. But
that's fine. That's fine. I think sometimes
it was the key point there.
Yeah, and sometimes it's nice to go off script, you know. So I think there was a question that you posed that wasn't in the script, but I actually thought it was quite nice. I thought it made sense. So I think, Mike, I think that's fine. Even if you do it in the next episodes, I think sometimes it's nice to just throw something in there, and then I'm pretty sure we can answer them anyways.
Great stuff. Trev, anything to say on that? I don't know if Mark's coming in.
Not really.
You have something?
No, I think we're good. I'm excited. Really looking forward to the next one. And now I'm thinking how we're going to frame it, going forward. So this session, when Mike condenses it down, and Deb, we've agreed on and John and everybody else on how long it's going to be, then we come up with the screed, because we'll put it in a screed.
What's that?
An article. We'll put it in.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And then the article will decide whether you guys want your bios, whether you want to talk a little bit more about the ERGs, just to give people a little bit more information, maybe some links to go back, and then we'll have the video, the vodcast within that.
Yeah, I think
that sounds good.
So I can share that also to Facebook, Twitter, and all of our other platforms as well. So,
Trevor, what software do you have for transcribing?
Like captions and things, you mean, Sam, as well? Yeah, transcripts and captions.
Yeah, I think Mike's got all of this type of software. So any ideas you've got, Sam, because this is essentially, this is you guys, it's your product. You know, it's yours. So any
to be fair,
ideas,
it's GSK's product, really.
Yeah, really.
It's a collaboration. Funded by GSK.
Yeah, I think if we can, the only thing that springs to mind is that I think now you can't really get away without having captions.
Yeah.
Sam, because it's quite.
Oh, sorry. You would need subtitles.
Subtitles, okay.
Yeah.
And we generally have subtitles and a transcript.
Yeah.
So
subtitles and a transcript.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's what we always do with all of our I know. With our videos.
Transcript.
Oh wow. You kind of need. I think there's transcript software somewhere.
Yeah, there's software. We've got software. You just run it through, and then it will pick up what people are saying.
I didn't realise that you wanted a transcript. Gonna have to work it out.
We'll work it out.
Well, do you know what? If we can't get the transcript, at least if we have subtitles, I think that would be important. But I think we can't.
You mean subtitles for the questions?
We've got software.
No, because generally for any videos that we do, just to make them more inclusive, we have subtitles.
Yeah.
So that if you have a hearing impairment or whatever, you can still. Yeah. So we just do that, as Sam said. So lots of companies are doing that as a matter of course.
Sam, did you say you've got the transcript software? Because I can send you the raw video to put the transcript on and then do the edit after, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, because there might be things that the transcript might not pick up.
To be transcribed, and then you can send that back and then I'll edit that.
Yeah.
I wonder if it might be better to edit and then add the subtitles on. I don't know which one is better, because the subtitles it just picks up.
Sam, there might be some words. There might be some words that the transcript might not pick up.
You correct them in your transcript. So you correct after it picks up, then you unfortunately need to watch the whole thing again and go correct because you might not pick up names and things. But so with that, it's always better to work with your final item rather than with your.
Because it's shorter.
Yeah.
Because it's shorter, Because if you're going to cut an hour down to half an hour, you're better off working with a half hour and then transcribing that.
Yeah.
Rather than transcribing and then deleting.
Yeah. So I'll give you.
But you can do it both.
I mean, to be honest with you, we've got a couple of ways of approaching this, which is the content was very good and there was very little that needed editing. So we've got two options. You can have your part one in two parts. You don't have to cut it to 30 minutes because otherwise you're cutting out a lot of the core stuff. As I was doing it, I couldn't hear anything that needed cutting.
Yeah. The only thing I would say with that is, I think, so sometimes you asked one question and it was answered 3 times, if that makes sense. And yes, I think at the beginning there were 3 different perspectives, which is good. But then as you go through, sometimes there were elements of picking up on and just adding one thing, or someone added 2 things. Do you see what I mean? So I think there was sometimes an overlap. So I think you can condense it when you watch it through so that the salient points really flow through for the listener.
Is, as that's your expertise, I would need pointers for that edit.
Yeah.
That would not be something that I could do.
Yeah, and Michael, that's absolutely fine. So what normally happens, so within GSK, for example, if we do a video, it then does come back to me or to Omar. I watch it through and then I send back at, 1 minute and
Brilliant.
25
Brilliant.
seconds.
Brilliant.
That's great. Can you cut out from 1 minute 26 seconds through to 1 minute such and such?
That's exactly what I want. So what I'll do, I'll send you the video, you recommend the edits, then I'll put that together, then that can go to Sam for the transcript and we're done.
Okay, perfect.
Right, that's the process. That's great. Because otherwise I would not know what to edit otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's absolutely fine. Yep.
Okay. Well done, everyone. That was very comfortable. It was a nice tone. It was great.
It was
natural, wasn't it?
It was a nice thick one. I was worried about how it would go. So I feel very good that we've done
natural
first bit. Yeah, because we've had quite a few meetings, but I was always worried about how the real thing.
The fact that we didn't have a prep call. Omar was like, "Nope, we're winging it."
No, but
you would have been over practiced though, and it would have come across as false. So
it's more organic because it just means you know your stuff. And once you know
stuff, we have spoken about it for a while, so I think actually winging it works quite well.
I don't know your industry, and I was comfortable having the conversation because of how it was coming back. So that was great because it was learning, and I can come because I'm, in my fields. I'm over there. I can relate to some of what you're saying. So it allows me to bring a question in from that perspective, which is still relative because, as I said, when you're in an industry like the pharmaceutical industry, which is, anything you do there, the more visibility, that impacts us all.
Mike, I don't think you've stopped recording, by the way.
So there is a bit of... You're almost role models without knowing that you're in that position, if you see what I mean.
Yeah. Mike, I don't think you've stopped recording.
That's all right. Yes, okay. I won't send them stuff, but all of the front end and the back end will be chopped off.
We're definitely not transcribing this bit.
No. Also, gentlemen, we do need to think about branding.
Yeah.
So we do need to think about, are we just going to have all of our brands together, which I know will be a challenge?
We'll work that out. That's the next step.
Okay, perfect.
Right, listen, go and have a good weekend.
You too. Thank you so much.
No problem. Take care.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.